And a good Thursday morning to you. Thank you so much for jumping on NewsNationNow.com and our News Nation Facebook page. As you can see on your screen, heightened Capitol security at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. You're taking a live look right now at the Capitol building as the flags are waving. As soon as that video moves, you'll see the heightened security. There are members of the military there waiting in case things happen there today at the U.S. Capitol. With that in mind, let's bring in Joe Khalil, our Washington, D.C. correspondent who is live in Washington inside the Capitol building. Joe, first question for those who may not know why is security up there at the Capitol once again?
So it's a good question. For a long time, March 4th has been circled on the calendar of, what has widely known now as the QAnon theory. And the idea, obviously, we're not giving this any credence whatsoever, but the theory was that was the quote-unquote real inauguration where former President Trump would reemerge as president again. And so because of that, that started to spread in the QAnon circles. And we heard from Capitol Police that eventually some right-wing extremist militia groups also looked at that date and thought, well, if there's going to be something happening at the Capitol, maybe they sort of take advantage of that. And so that's why we heard chatter at first, and that chatter eventually became specific threats that Capitol Security here, Capitol Police, didn't go into detail, but did warn lawmakers about yesterday that they had a credible, actual threat of militia violence. Obviously, we don't want to see another repeat of January 6th, so that was conveyed. And yesterday, the House leadership decided, you know what, the House is not even going to come in today. No chances. There is extra security here, but that's where all of this stems from.
All right, the Capitol Police announced yesterday that they are, quote, prepared for any potential threats towards members of Congress or towards the Capitol complex. And you mentioned March 4th. That was the original presidential inauguration day until 1933. Now, as we look at what is happening in front of us and the heightened security there outside the Capitol, one thing that is going to reign supreme on everyone's mind is what happened January 6th. Is this an effort to prevent that? Is the thought process of these threats that are coming in could lead to something similar to that?
Yeah, we've been having, hearings in Congress for the past 3 weeks where lawmakers have been trying to pin down what exactly went wrong and try to correct those missteps. So, this may be even an overcorrection, but an overcorrection is a safety measure, right? And so the last thing that anybody here wants, whether it be lawmakers or staff or journalists or especially the security, those tasked with keeping this building and the complex safe, to have a repeat. So the idea is, let's take these threats seriously, whether it's chatter, whatever it may be. And we don't know the seriousness of the threat. The details of it haven't actually emerged. But from what Capitol Police, from what the FBI and their partners have garnered from it, they felt it was necessary to do these extra security measures here at the Capitol. And everybody has January 6th top of mind.
All right, significant security upgrades is what the Capitol Police said that they are willing to do today for the possibility of what may come. We're seeing live images on our screen right now. I'm assuming National Guardsmen and women who are outside two barricades, which is not something that we've seen prior to January 6th. What are those other upgrades that are happening today, and I'm assuming we'll go into the weekend, to prevent anything like what we talked about January 6th?
Yeah, well, that 8-foot, barbed wire fence is still up around 3 miles of the Capitol complex. So you already have that. You already have the National Guard here. There have been about 5,000 National Guard troops, at any given time since January 6th, actually since the inauguration when they increased that amount to more than 20,000. So you have that presence here. A lot of times the National Guard troops, if you're in this building, many of them are inside. Many of them are in the cafeterias or, they're sort of just standby. So I think what we've seen today is that fewer, at least just as anecdotally as I walk around, fewer standby and more outside near the fence areas. So you have that. You also have Capitol Police taking some serious precautions with lawmakers, offering to escort them from one place to another, not only here, but even at the airport. There's going to be extra security as lawmakers have to come in and out from their own district. So on a number of different levels, Capitol Police, the National Guard are taking this threat seriously. And also we heard yesterday from actually a memo that was sent out to every lawmaker that they are cooperating now with the National Guard, that they have been communicating, which frankly was an area where lawmakers were concerned about doing these hearings, trying to figure out what went wrong with January 6th. It seems like there may have been a lack of communication on specific threats. And so clearly they're trying to address that issue this time around, make sure that nothing close to that happens again.
Joe, one thing that I won't forget about January the 6th is you and I spoke during the insurrection as things were happening, and you were located, moved away downstairs, hopefully in a safe location. It ended up being a safe location. I'm curious, though, the changes that have happened from January 6th to today, and then maybe any extra changes as far as you entering the building. Were you able to get into the building today with extra security protocols, or was it normal? What is that new normal? And I know that's a cliche word, but what is the new normal after January 6th?
Yeah. Well, so the new normal now is that security fence is actually quite a ways away from the Capitol. I mean, you can see it there. It's not exactly right up close to it. So there are about 3 or 4 different checkpoints where, as media, we have to show our passes that allow us to get in. So it's 2 or 3 barriers before you even get to the Capitol building itself. And then once you get in, you go through the regular security. But again, you're passing through the fence. You're passing through levels of National Guard troops. And it's been that way since the day after January 6th. And, there has been talk about, is it time for this fence? Is it time for the National Guard troops to go home, for the fence to come down? We knew that particularly they were going to be up for this date, for March 4th, which again has been on the radar of law enforcement for a long time. So this is the new normal. We're not sure how long it's going to last, how long it will be the new normal, but it was important for them to at least keep those measures in place today.
All right, so there are all kinds of threats that come into Washington, D.C. a lot. Most we don't know about. This one we do know about. What's the feeling inside that building today as far as a worry that something may actually materialize?
I don't want to downplay the potential threat here, but I think there's a level of comfort today that we had that we frankly didn't have on January 6th. We didn't maybe know the extent of the trouble that would happen that day, but there was certainly the possibility. Everybody had expected. We knew there were going to be people who had been riled up for months and who were angry, being around the Capitol trying to stop the process. So we kind of knew then something may happen just because of the level of security here that's around. I mean, you see the National Guard and the fence and all of the measures they put in place. There is not this sense of overwhelming fear, I should say. But again, who knows? And you always want to make sure that you take any of these threats seriously. I imagine a lot of people on January 6th, including myself, who assumed that something might happen, that there may be violence that day, did not expect the level of violence, did not expect the Capitol building itself to be breached. That was something that was truly a shock to a lot of people. So you don't want to, lessen the security because of a lack of imagination for what may or may not happen. Having said that, Aaron, I'll tell you, I think there's a good level of comfort given the security that is at the Capitol right now.
As you continue to take a live look right now at the U.S. Capitol, the heightened security that is there over a potential threat of violence that could happen in the nation's capital today. Joe Khalil joins us live from Washington, D.C., our Washington, D.C. correspondent here on News Nation. Joe, I want to ask you about the House versus the Senate. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer canceled all votes for the remainder of the week for the House of Representatives. What is the Senate doing this week?
So the Senate is still in session here, and it's sort of the opposite track. Not only are they here, but they're going to be here for the long haul because today they have what's known commonly as Vote-a-Rama, which is they have that $1.9 trillion COVID relief package, the biggest agenda item now that's coming out of Congress. And today is the day where the Senate is making changes, amendments. There's going to be a lot of voting. They're basically trying to hammer out what the final bill is going to look like. But before we get there, we got a lot of process. So the Senate is here today. They're going to start at 2, and we expect that they're probably going to go beyond midnight, even into Friday morning. So it's going to be a long day for the Senate. So totally opposite track of the House, which decided they had a couple of votes left to be taken. And instead of leaving it for today, they just finished it up last night. They stayed late so they could accomplish all of that, well into midnight yesterday, and the House is not here today.
All right, as we kind of pivot towards the end of this conversation, Joe, I know you're busy there in Washington and need to get to what you're doing, but the COVID relief bill is something that a lot of Americans are aiming at. Changes have been happening back and forth. Where are we right now? Do we expect this thing to pass and get to President Biden's desk relatively soon?
The expectation is that it is going to pass, and it may just pass along party lines. You may not get any Republicans in the Senate to vote for it. There were a couple of sticking points. Those stimulus checks. There's discussion about maybe changing the income level at which somebody would get a check. We've had the minimum wage debate. Looks like that's going to be taken out of the package. And there are a couple of other disagreements here and there, policy-wise. But it seems like Republicans may not be on board for this for any reason. So you may just have a 50 Democrat, 50 Republican vote on this, at which point Vice President Kamala Harris may break a tie in the Senate. And then the House, passed it by a narrow majority. In fact, there were 2 Democrats who voted against it. So it has the votes to pass, but it may be very close. It may be right along party lines.
Joe Khalil reporting for us live out of Washington, D.C. Joe, stay safe today. A lot of unknowns going on there in Washington, D.C. And I do want to say congratulations to you, Dad to be.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's the most exciting thing going on in my life right now, but beside all this Capitol craziness.
Absolutely. Joe Khalil, we appreciate you. We'll see you later tonight on News Nation Prime. Well, I mean, that's the story right now out of Washington, D.C. as you continue to take a live look at what is happening in Washington. National Guardsmen and women, troops there on the ground. You can see it on your screen towards the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. But Capitol security has been heightened after a possible plot by a militia group to breach the U.S. Capitol. So right now, the House of Representatives has canceled all other business for the rest of the week. The Senate is still there, as we heard from Joe. If you don't know about News Nation, we encourage you to jump on newsnationnow.com. We'll let you know exactly how to find us. We're a brand new network newscast that is focused on the middle lane. We're not going to steer you one way or the right. We are unbiased, and we're going to let you decide how you feel all about the news of the day. Join us tonight. It is 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock Central on News Nation Prime. You can also join the early edition, started this week actually, with Nicole Burley. Joe Donlin has the Donlin Report right after that. So we're on from 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock Central. I'm making all these changes on the fly, Elise. A lot of going on. We're adapting, we're growing, which is always a good thing. I am Aaron Nolan. Have a fantastic morning, and find more at News Nation Now.